So it's only been 6 short months since the Moto G7 family launched here in the UK, and yet here we have the first of the Moto G8 handsets already. Seriously, right now Motorola is spitting out offspring faster than a Randy Rabbit convention. And because of that slender time frame, the new Moto G8 Plus isn't exactly a huge upgrade over the older G7 Plus, sporting very similar specs and features for the most part. The main change comes in the form of a fresh triple lens camera setup, while the performance has also been boosted, and it is now cheaper than ever too, costing from just £239. So the question is the Moto G8 Plus a worthy purchase for owners of older Moto handsets, or just anyone after a respectable budget blower? Well, I've been using it as my full-time personal handset for about a week now, and here's my in-depth Motorola Moto G8 Plus review. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now have a quick squint at the G8 Plus and you'll notice that not much has changed in the design stakes compared with the last gen. Gone is Motorola's iconic circular camera chassis that we know and love, replaced with a more traditional vertical lens arrangement instead. Boo. But you do still get that rear fingerprint scanner with the Moto logo etched lovingly inside. The display here is typically big at 6.3 inches, but those bezels are just as skinny as any recent iPhone, so Motorola's handset doesn't feel too cumbersome to wield, although it's definitely got some proper heft at 188 grams. Thankfully, Motorola has found ways to ease the pain when it comes to one-handed use. For one, you can drag down the notifications panel with a quick flick of that rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. It does occasionally take a few flicks to get going because it's quite a narrow sensor, it doesn't always register it, but it's better than nothing. And you do also have a dedicated one-handed mode as well, which is particularly handy when you're playing around in apps. It means you don't have to knack your thumbs stretching to those far-reaching corners. You can grab the Moto G8 Plus in either crystal pink or this darker cosmic blue finish, and cosmic is bloody right because it's really dark with just a subtle gradient finish. I do personally prefer more colourful variants, but the cosmic blue design does look rather sleek, and the dark finish does help to hide all the smudgy, greasy ming that inevitably covers that glass surface the instant you pick it up. And after just a few days of use, that glass surfacing has already picked up a couple of light scratches. So if you want to keep your Moto G8 Plus in good nick, you'll definitely want to slap on that condom case that comes bundled within, or maybe treat yourself to a more premium protector if you're feeling all flash. And the Moto G8 Plus is at least a water repellent as well. Basically it means it's kind of splash proof. You can use it out in the rain, absolutely no bother whatsoever. I've had plenty of testing of that as per usual. Thanks a lot, UK. Now let's move on to the media, and as usual Motorola doesn't disappoint for the screen tech. After all, Moto was one of the first mobile manufacturers to chuck a decent Full HD screen on a budget blower, and it hasn't let up since, delivering a crisp and colourful 6.3 inch IPS panel here on the G8 Plus. This more than does the job for your YouTube and Netflix sessions, giving a comfortable, good-looking view of all of the action. And I'm also loving the dual stereo speaker setup here on the Moto G8 Plus as well, quite the rarity at this sort of price point. It's quite powerful on that top volume. Let's just give it a test. Oh, go away, Audible.
Now, one of the biggest upgrades on the fresh new Moto G8 Plus is that new triple lens camera that Motorola has slapped on the back. This is the first...
Got some real punch to it, and also the clarity is pretty decent on that top volume as well, so not bad at all. And yes, thank you baby Jesus, there is a headphone jack when you want to plug in and keep your viewing session private. Now, Android Pie is the OS of choice here on the Moto G8 Plus, and so far there's no indication of when the fresh new Android 10 will be beamed across, but hopefully it'll be this side of when St. Nick squeezes his jolly fat arse down the chimney pipe. As usual, it's a stock version of Android with a few Moto additions thrown in to make things a bit more usable, mostly gesture controls like that one-handed mode and the likes of flip to silence. I did experience a couple of what appeared to be just teething issues with the Moto G8 Plus in my first week of using it, which seems to at least calm down towards the end of that week. Occasionally for the first few days the fingerprint sensor would refuse to respond to my frantic jabbing, although it usually behaves itself, and there's always the respectable face recognition to fall back on if needed. And another time all my apps basically just refused to respond until I rebooted the handset, and then everything was absolutely fine again. As I say, occasionally you get these little teething problems with phones during the first few days, so fingers crossed that's all it was, and now the Moto G8 Plus will behave itself. Right? Overall, the Moto G8 Plus does provide a solid and satisfying everyday experience though. I do miss some of the Android 10 features such as the system navigation, the likes of the swiping from the side of the screen in order to go back, just nice and slick, and of course that lovely dark mode action as well. So hopefully it won't be too long a wait until we get that Android update. Luckily, performance isn't a problem for your everyday shenanigans. There's a Snapdragon 665 chipset backed by 4 gigs of RAM, which is plenty to ensure that your apps load in a nippy enough manner and run smoothly too. You can indulge in a spot of gaming if you like, with the likes of PubG Mobile playing with a respectable frame rate, as long as you keep the detail levels low, that is. And of course, you do have the usual budget phone problems such as lackluster screen responsiveness in those life or death situations. So I would recommend sticking to more casual titles on the Moto G8 Plus whenever possible. But one of the best bits of the Moto G8 Plus, like many previous Motos, is the battery life, thanks to the mighty 4000 mAh cell crammed inside. I found that even when I was using the phone as my sat-nav for a good few hours in a day, streaming lots of media, doing all kinds of stuff on it, I would always end the day with at least around 20% life remaining. And I'll tell you what, after using the Pixel 4 for over a week as my personal handset, that kind of battery performance is more refreshing than taking a shower in Mountain Dew. The battery also recharges at a decent rate as well, thanks to Motorola's 18-watt turbo power tech, which tops out at a still pretty good 15 watts using other chargers. Of course, so far so familiar for owners of previous Moto G generation handsets, but one of the biggest upgrades here on the G8 Plus compared with the older G7 Plus is that rear camera tech. You now have a mighty 48 megapixel primary lens plus an ultra-wide angle shooter for video and a depth sensor to help out with portrait shots. So the hardware has been boosted here on the Moto G8 Plus, but does that directly translate into better looking photos and video? Well, keep yourself in suspense no longer. I've done a full Moto G8 Plus camera review, which is live right now, so go check that out for all you need to know. And so there you have it. The big question is the Moto G8 Plus worth a punt if you're after a new smartphone for under 300 bob? And personally, I have to say, yeah, especially with that new lower £239 asking price, you really can't go wrong. It's a satisfying all-round experience, decent camera tech on the back, certainly for photos, not necessarily for video. Great media experience, fantastic smooth everyday performance. You can even do a bit of gaming on it if you like, and the battery will keep you going all day long, so definitely gets a thumbs up. Of course, Motorola might go and launch another dozen handsets before the end of 2019. I certainly wouldn't be shocked if they do. So it might not necessarily be the best Motorola blowout of 2019, but it's one of my favorites right now alongside the Moto G7 Power. So yeah, so definitely slap your comments, thoughts, etc. down in the comments below, and please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest mobile tech. Cheers everyone, love you!